Thina abantu abamnyama, oh sorry to say Thina, abantu abamnyama. Most of black people we just buy wine because sibona iphuzu labo bani bani. Yeah, because it's
yeah,
well marketed.
yeah,
Yabona
yeah,
$8 and then
yeah.
we just buy that thing.
Yeah,
Yabona.
that is true. It's French.
Yeah.
It's French. Of course, when they depict the name sommelier, it means that you're a wine expert. My facts could be wrong, but it already entitles that you're an expert in wines, basically. Yeah.
Just to put a disclaimer. Kubantu abangazi angimthanda utshwala. Lo bhuti lona nje uthe please Ndumiso ngicela ukuza kwi-show yakho because I've got something interesting, and obviously I did some research.
The thing is, so they say in your first life you must acquire, right, and then in your second life you must give. There's a very nice term that they used to give, but I'm just paraphrasing that. In your next life you give.
Hi, sanibonani makhaya, igama lami uNdumiso kaMdlalose. Namhlanje ngilethele uhlelo olushasha olubizwa ngokuthi si on with uNdumiso Mdlalose. La sibheka khona abantu abasha abenza kahle emkhakheni yahlukahlukene, whether it's acting, music noma ngabe yipi career. Kodwa namhlanje siphethe indoda enkulu. The man who knows everything about wine. Ne? Everything about wine. If you have a question about wine, this is the guy to talk to. Please help me welcome Tino.
Thank you, sir. Yes. Ngikhona baba kunjani?
Sibambe ithambo. Mangikhuluma nawe njoba ngi-introduce nje ngavele ngonywa.
Askisa ngibuyanga nebhodlela at least ukuthi siyehlise kahle.
No, it's fine. Okay. Tell me, my brother.
Yeah, boss.
You are a wine sommelier or sommelier.
Sommelier, yeah.
Sommelier.
So many pronunciations for it, yeah.
Oh, okay. Where does that name come from? Do you know?
So I know it's French.
Yeah.
It's French. Of course, when they depict the name sommelier, it means that you're a wine expert. My facts could be wrong, but it already entitles that you're an expert in wines, basically, yeah.
Okay, that's what you do actually.
Yeah, basically, I just do wines, taste wines. I don't get drunk, please don't mistake me. I just taste wines, recommend wines for people who enjoy some wines as well, just for people to appreciate what wine is all about. You know, so many people are so misinformed about wine. They think wine is just wine, but there's actually more to it, from the climate, from the place where the grapes are grown,
How?
Yeah.
Because wine, according to me, I'm thinking utshwala.
No.
Right? Wine, I think is into oyiphuzayo ekudala. What do you mean by that actually? Ukuthi
So essentially, oh my God, I don't know where to even start. But essentially, everything starts with the grapes.
Oh, okay.
There's different types of grapes, so different types of wines. I'm sure you've heard Sauvignon Blanc, Chenin Blanc, Chardonnay. Those names, you've heard all of those names, and you're wondering what is that? Those are the type of grapes that make the particular wines that people get in a shop or at the wine farm directly.
Okay.
So from the grapes in itself, from the climate of the grape as well, and from how the winemaker wants to make the wine, that plays a huge impact on what the wine is going to be. So there's so much more. So how they turn it into alcohol, of course, sugar and yeast, you're gonna get your alcohol, which is ethanol, basically.
Actually, I just know about umqombothi here. We also put sugar and yeast.
Exactly.
On the umqombothi, yeah.
It's still the same process.
Which means we've got a wine as well. Just that we don't know it.
Exactly.
It's a beer.
Exactly. You're turning that into alcohol. Essentially, you would have like your ethanol, your carbon dioxide as well, but they'll let that escape within the air so that they don't have bubbles in the. If they're making like a still wine, like a white wine, for example, they'll let those bubbles escape, and then it'll be like a still wine, basically. Yeah, so
that's interesting.
So that they'll call that fermentation, basically.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, that process.
That process is fermentation, when you're converting sugar into alcohol.
Oh. Okay, I've just noticed that you also have a company. You own a company called Vineyard Sessions.
Yes, sir.
So, how did that came about? What do you do there in that field of wine industry?
So basically, the Vineyard Session started off with the whole essence of saying, look, man, I'm sure there's a lot of people who have went to school, after...
Sorry, I said vine...
It's okay. Some people say vineyard. Some people say vineyard.
Vineyard, we're learning. Okay, sorry to disturb you, brother.
So a lot of people have went to school, and you every single time you're told to be a doctor, engineer, and then after high school, what's next? Let's just say everything falls flat and you don't know where to go from there. You know, what's next? No one tells you that there's an industry like this where there's a wine sommelier, you know, and you can actually make a living out of it. I have friends right now in cruise ships making like 75,000 rand a month just from wines pairing. Of course, it's a little bit more indebted than that, but you know, they're just making money from this career about wines, you know. So I was like, you know what, why not educate people and then at the same time create employment as we educate people, you know. It's a very respected field for people.
So there's money in this
There
field.
is money. There is money. There's a lot of money with it.
Kusho indoda enemali-ke madoda. Mina anginamali.
Yeah.
Just a podcast, eh?
Hey, bazongibamba inkunzi lana.
Okay, that's interesting. So
Yeah.
iyona into eyenza ukuthi-ke ube ne-spark ekutheni ube interested to uqala iwine, ne?
Yeah.
Another thing I see here, there's a connoisseur. Is it a connoisseur or connoisseur?
Oh yeah, a connoisseur.
Connoisseur.
Connoisseurs, yeah.
So what's the difference between a connoisseur
And a sommelier.
and a
So
sommelier, yes.
basically, a sommelier is a person who works in an establishment like a restaurant, for example. You know, it's a career.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
okay.
it's a career. And
So this is
then,
about waiter and waitress.
exactly, for
Okay,
example.
okay,
So it's a
okay.
career. And then with a connoisseur is somebody who's an enthusiast. He doesn't work in the field, but he has well-depted, what do you call this, knowledge about wines, but he doesn't work with wines. I don't know if it makes sense.
No, it doesn't make sense.
So,
What do you mean by
okay,
that?
so a sommelier is your title. If you're a trained person with a certificate, basically, your certificate,
okay,
you went to school. Some people went to school for it, you know, like people like me as well.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
I went to school for it, and then you know I was placed at Marble, one of the restaurants in Rosebank as well. So I worked there as a sommelier. So all wine sommeliers are connoisseurs, but not all connoisseurs are wine sommeliers.
So you practice there first and then...
Yeah, so I practiced. So at Marble, they taught me everything that I know, essentially, and then they took me to the school where I could learn more about wines and everything. It's called WSET, you know, for people who would be interested to do that. And then, you know, then I got my certificate, and then I was trained properly. So a sommelier is basically a trained person.
Trained person, yes,
Exactly,
yes.
with the knowledge about wines. And he works at an establishment like bars, restaurants, and all of the hotels, for example. And then a connoisseur is a person who just enjoys drinking wine at home, or a person who just goes to a different tastings. An enthusiast, basically.
Kahle, we expect lento le.
I try to be.
Okay, ngiyakuzwa ne. And then another thing is, a lot of black people, we don't know much about wines, or even the wine industry.
Yeah.
Yabona. Kuyangithusa ukuthola umuntu ofana nawe who's young, black,
Yeah.
and then you are so interested kule nto lena. That's why ngikuinvite because your idea and your business, ngiyazibuza ukuthi what makes you think of this? Because mina ngiyazi lento lena, yabona.
Yeah.
So ipoint engifuna ukuyisho lana ukuthi we don't know much about summer wine.
Yeah.
Yabona. And this and also with your profession. So engifuna ukwazi ukuthi to someone ohlele ekhaya elokishini, ohlele emakhaya, othi ngiyayizwa lento engikhulumayo, ngiyafisa ukuqala ukutaste ama wine. Ngiyafisa ukubona ukuthi yipi wine ehambiselana nami, because I know ukuthi ama wine njoba kade usho nje ayadiffer.
Yeah.
Yes. So umzimba abantu ayifani. Khona umuntu othanda iwine, so it could be a red wine, white wine, sweet, njani. So lo muntu lo advisor kanjani ofuna ukuqala ekutheni azi ukuthi yipi wine amele ayisebenzise, where to start?
Okay, so essentially where to start, it's always for everybody. What you don't like, basically. That's how you would start, you know. It's a thing of saying, okay, I didn't like that. You know, when you pick up your first bottle and then you taste it and you're like, nah, this is not for me. You know, that's the first step of everything. Pick up a bottle, taste it. If it's something, most likely you won't like that first bottle that you're gonna taste. And then you
Why
start,
is that?
I don't, because you're basically your palate, so they say palate, you know. Yeah, I know.
Mina ngazi ama palettes, but ama palette jet.
It's just here. It's just here. It's a palate. Basically, yeah, your taste buds won't react on at a, how can I put it? So you're tasting something that you don't know.
Yeah.
Most likely it's something that you're not gonna like. For example, if it's a wine which is very strong, I don't want to use strong, but astringency. But just to make it a little bit easier for people with the terminology, you want something easy to drink. For example, let's just say you don't get something easy to drink, get something which is very rough. on your palate, for example, right? You're not gonna like it, and you'll be like, nah, this wine is too dry. I don't like how it lingers. I don't like this. I don't like that. I don't like that. Then what happens next? Then you go take something that you would like, which is not astringent, something which doesn't linger that much, with something which doesn't have so much acidity. You get that. But that's what the vineyard session is all about, We're teaching people about the grapes, that this grape does this and that. Because you can't just go into a shop and buy a bottle of wine without knowing what the grape is.
Thina, abantu abamnyama, oh, sorry to say Thina. Abantu abamnyama. Most of black people, we just buy wine because sibona iphuzu yabo bani bani.
Yeah,
because it's well marketed.
Yeah,
$8 and then we just buy that thing.
Yeah, that is true.
So ngiyakuzwa mosho kanjalo. Oh, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
So manje, these sections that you have, the sessions that you have, they're here in Johannesburg.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's say for someone who's in Durban, KZN, or Cape Town, do you know maybe which bangaya gupi to get that information, that knowledge, or sipayon,
Right.
or they can just contact you?
So essentially, they can just contact me, not for free, of course. I'm just joking. I joke. So I am trying by all means to kind of set up a nice platform where I can have some videos, educating people about wines, and try to see if it's something that we can take across the country as well with good marketing, of course. But essentially, people can just call, and ask, send me emails, whatever. But I am trying to put up some really good platforms where even if when we're having these vineyard sessions, we have our photographers who take videos of the wine session in itself, then you can still watch it online, and then you can just search, okay, these are the basics of wines. Okay, these are the grapes. Interesting. I didn't know this about wine, Like the first vineyard session that we had, people came in there thinking that they were going to come there to get drunk.
Oh,
exactly. They came in with that mentality that, I'm going to come there and I'm going to get drunk because there's alcohol and we're good.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Those are real South African people.
Exactly. It's crazy, especially in Gauteng, man.
It's crazy the lifestyle here.
Exactly. The lifestyle here is crazy. Well, listen, Cape Town, they're well vested about wines. It is, man, the motherland of wines in an essence. So, what do you call this? Excuse me.
Sorry.
So, it's very hard to get a market of Gauteng people to actually appreciate wine, So the moment we started teaching them, we're like, okay, let's do this, because we didn't want to lecture them, make it look like school or whatsoever. We're like, okay.
But you're not gonna make, you wanted to make it interesting.
Exactly. I wanted to be intimate with people, I was like, okay, I'm not going to say anything. What questions do you guys have? For example, and then they'll be asking, what's the difference between a Robertson and the Four Cousins, for example, and then we explain that difference and all of that stuff. What's the difference between a Kennenkop and a Mielas, for example, is it the price? Is it this?
Can
that.
you just tell us one different on the first one that you said, Robinson and
oh my God, I would get into trouble if I start thinking.
Okay, no problem.
I would have to be very real with it.
Because amanye amawayini nokubabona abantu bebephuzile ababehave.
Yeah. So
abanye baba hyper.
So, so there's some wines which you just drink to get drunk. Then there's some wines which you drink just to get some nice quality. I mean, firstly, we had Rickety Bridge, one of the wine farms in Cape Town, that sponsored our vineyard session with their wines so that we could teach the masterclass. Very quality wines, We don't want to give people mediocrity, for example, We want people to taste the finer things in life, So we're like, if we're teaching you about a grape of Sauvignon Blanc, Rickety Bridge had a Sauvignon Blanc. So we'll be teaching you, okay, Sauvignon Blanc is high in acidity, for example. That basic. It's high in acidity. It has some herbaceous notes like asparagus, if you've ever tried an asparagus before, like some bell pepper, for example, If you want something which is refreshing, crisp, for example, you can do a Sauvignon Blanc. Then they started tasting that. As they tasted that, they were starting to get those hints that I was talking about. And then I was like, okay, there's no wrong or right answer. Tell me what you're getting besides the things that I just told you about. And then people were mentioning blackcurrant, for example.
What's it now?
Yeah, I was also shocked, but I was like, wow, okay, interesting. So this is what I told them. I was like, look, man, there is no wrong or right answer, so we just flowed with it because I wanted people to be comfortable. If you are getting that blackcurrant, sure, why not? Why not? If it's there, it's there. We don't have the same nose or the same palate, for example.
Okay, okay.
So you'd essentially have to teach them. I was telling some of them, like, ain't you getting like a cat pee, for example? If you smelled like a cat's pee, ain't you getting that? And they're like, wow, okay, we're actually getting that. We're actually getting that for people who have actually smelled that. Yeah, you know. You know. Yeah, I know.
So another thing is like most of the time with amantombazane girls or women, usually when they drink wine or khona lento abantu abanokusho ukuthi iwine lehlela ngenzansi. Is that true?
Like kanjani?
Feelings like ukuthi umuntu nama feelings amaningi.
Finish, bro. Lapho
It's not
basuke
true.
lapho
It's
basuke
not true.
sebadakiwe nje. Yeah. Ay, yeah.
Okay, so can you name maybe or do you know of any South African brands or wine that are currently like from South Africa?
Yeah, a lot. So if you really want a really good example of some quality wines, stick with the classics like Kennenkop, for example.
Oh, Kennenkop, yeah.
Kennenkop,
It's a South African
Meerlast,
brand,
the
yeah.
South African brand, Meerlast, Rakes as well. It's really good. What do you call this? There's Black Oyster Catcher, Springfield as well. Those are some of the classics that people can lean into if you want to start a journey of, appreciating wine, appreciating what the winemaker has done to the wine. You stick with those brands, those Kennenkop. Beierskloof. Beierskloof is a good example as well. I know that some people love some Cape Ruby as well, for example. Cape Ruby is a good one. It's very hard to find like a really good quality of that as well. But those are some things that people in general that I've seen that they enjoy. So if you want something which you have a guarantee that it's gonna be good, even though you don't know what you're tasting, stick with those brands. Your Kennenkop, Beierskloof, Rakes, Springfield, Black Oyster Catcher, for example, Paul Clouvet. Those are some really good examples of some really good brands in South Africa that are very consistent.
I'm not clean. Just to put a disclaimer. Kubantu abangazi angibuthanda utshwala. Lo bhuti lona nje uthe please Ndumiso ngicela ukuza kwishow yakho because I've got something interesting, and obviously I did some research because ngendlela esengibuza ngayo ngathi ngisidakwa uthanda utshwala. Yeah, just to put it out there nje.
Yeah, I'm also when nami ngisumuntu odawayo, but I just appreciate wine in the stories.
But it's nice to do topics sometimes ezinto othola ukuthi not ukuthi awukho interested ku izinto ongazazi because ufunda njalo ufunda every day. Like right now I'm learning a lot about my wines, and I also didn't know ukuthi kunama brands amaningi kangaka le South Africa.
Yeah, there's so much more.
There's so much.
There's a lot.
And then another thing, how long you've been in this wine industry?
Oh my God, it's been 3 years now.
It's been 3 years.
It's been 3 years. Yeah, it's been 3 years now. So yeah, it's been 3 years. In actual fact, 3 years now.
Okay.
I know.
And then from isikhathi wafika ngaso to the wine industry, and now ungasho mhlawumbe ukuthi si evolve kuphi, improve kuphi mhlawumbe, or ukhona la kumele improve khona?
So, I mean, essentially, South Africa has been big with wines. I think I could be wrong. Maybe things have changed. But last time I checked, they were the world's most producing.
Only for white people. Right?
Like the most produced white grape in South Africa was Chenin Blanc, which was the top tier of worldwide as well. I think it was number 1 or number 3 at the time. In South Africa. So what do you call this? That's how much South Africa is so big on that scale. They're very big. But it's just that people are not informed about it. It's only majority Cape Town people. A few individuals in Gauteng, Johannesburg, for example.
Individuals. Or model C.
Look, there is some people, like, trust me, there is some people, because there is a lot of tastings in Johannesburg. There's a lot. I mean, there's Wine X. Of course, they do it like once in a year. It's a very big event where you're gonna taste a lot of brands from Cape Town. A lot. You're gonna taste a lot of wine.
Is it for free?
It's like 250.
Oh, okay.
But you'll be tasting a lot, though. You'll be tasting a lot. I think the difficulty of South Africa has been to educate our people about the history of South African wines. That's been very difficult. And that's what you're trying to do in Johannesburg. Cape Town is good. Cape Town, their market is there. People know that Cape Town is all about wines. And they try to educate people about wines because people can go to the wine farms. But what about here in Johannesburg? So what do? We bring the Cape to Johannesburg. We talk to
Oh,
wine
yeah,
farms,
yeah.
like we spoke to Rickety Bridge, who were very fantastic, and very generous to give us their wines so that people can taste. We brought the Cape to Johannesburg, and people were trying all of that stuff out, and which was great for them at the same time.
And it's
So yeah,
amazing experience, I guess, because into abantu abangayijwayele, and then you get to meet the actual owners and the
exactly,
people who knows exactly about wines.
exactly,
Bazonifundisa ukuthi, okay, this is how you drink it. Because
yeah,
I think I saw something online that says actually there's a wine that you can have dinner with,
yeah,
and there's also a wine that you can take there without having dinner and stuff.
yeah.
So umehluko kuphi lapho?
So-
To someone who doesn't know.
So, okay, let me just use two grapes for example.
Oh, okay.
Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay. They're both white wines, for example, right? Sauvignon Blanc, it's a wine that you just wanna kick back, relax. If you've ever drank a Coke, for example, you relax.
Drink
It's
a Coke.
nice. Yeah, well, you just drink a Coke when it's hot, young tall. Just wanna relax.
Just say Coca-Cola, bro.
Exactly.
Drink a Coke.
so so Sauvignon Blanc is that way because of its acidity. It's something that you can drink on its own. Something that you can drink on its own, or you can mess around with some oysters.
okay.
Yeah, it's something that you can drink on its own. Then there's a Chardonnay. They use oak. I'm sure you've heard some things about those brown barrels, oak barrels. I'm sure you've heard about those, right? Or you've seen those.
Okay, as in like the oak tree.
Yeah, like from an oak tree, like those barrels. Have you seen those barrels where
Yes,
they
I
put
see-
in
I see
wine
them,
to
yeah,
age?
yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
The one that we see in the movies and also in adverts. Yeah?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in those barrels, right, they will store wine. So what happens when you put wine in there? It gives the wine more texture, right? Like a Chardonnay, usually the oak and Chardonnay. So you're gonna get some of those buttery notes, for example, because they will try to make it like kind of like a food wine,
Oh, okay.
something that you can have around with fish, like a salmon. You can have a very good salmon with a very good Chardonnay, which has some body. Sauvignon Blanc doesn't have a lot of body. By body, I'm just talking about the feel in your mouth. The feel that the
Taste,
wine
yeah,
would
yeah, yeah.
have. Is it heavy? Is it easy? Is it just passing through?
Does it have the aftertaste?
So it depends. So that aftertaste you'll be getting it from the fruitiness of a wine.
Okay.
So okay, how can I simplify this? So let me use Sauvignon Blanc as an example, right? Sauvignon Blanc can grow in 3 climates, if I'm not mistaken. It can grow in a cool, in a moderate, and in a warmer climate.
So now it can grow to become the same, or it just differs?
So
Or
it will
is-
differ. That's how the style will differ now. So if it grows in a place where it's cold, for example, like a place in Elgin, it's gonna be crisp. So
okay.
exactly. So and the sugar levels will be very low at the same time, but it
Yeah.
will have a higher acidity. That's why you get in the crispiness, because in a grape, that's where you get the flavors, which is crazy.
okay,
That's why they
okay,
use
okay.
grapes instead of other fruits. They use grapes because they're so complex. There's so much that you're gonna get in a grape. You're gonna get the acidity, the flavors as well.
And they adapt easily.
Exactly. So, if it grows in a cooler climate, chances are it's going to have high acidity, right? It won't be too fruity. That fruitiness is the reason why it will linger, why the wine will linger, and then it will have that aftertaste.
Nice.
For people who don't want that, get something from a cooler climate like Elgin, for example. And then there's a warmer climate like your Constantia, which is hot. It's warm. Let me just use warm. It's a warm climate, meaning the wine will be fruity. You're gonna get some of those peachy notes, pineapple. I know you were thinking I'm making this stuff up. Eh? You're gonna get all of those notes. You're
Yeah.
gonna get those pineapple, which is crazy in a wine, because why? It grew in a different climate. That's why I was like, the climate and the grape will play a very big role, especially the climate in where it grows up in. That's why you can't grow the grapes anyway. That's why it's very hard to grow like grapes in Johannesburg. Why? Because fluctuations as well. There's a whole scientific geometrical thing about it on where you can grow your vines, your grapes, and all of that stuff.
My brother, it sounds like mfethu uprofessor walento lena.
Ah.
You've got a lot of knowledge. How do you keep be into date, knowing all these things? Do you read a lot, or do you visit these sessions a lot? What makes you be able to know everything that you know now?
So I'm not gonna say I know everything. I just know the little that I know is because I read a lot.
Oh,
There's
okay,
so
okay,
much
yeah.
to read. So for people who would want to take this as a career, be advised that you're gonna have to read a lot, like
About
a
wine,
lot
yeah,
about
yeah,
wines.
yeah, yeah.
There's so much to learn from the grapes in itself, the vines, the bottle, the winemakers. There's so much to read. I remember when I started, I used to freak out. Like, there's so much to learn. But that's what kept me dry, because I get easily bored. You know, it's when times move, and especially when I start to master something, you know, I get easily bored. But with wines, every single day you're learning something new. Every single day, there's no point where you like, I know everything. No, there will never come a time where you're like, I know everything. It's like saying you know how to tackle life. You know, you know, that's
true.
wine.
That's
So
true.
every single day you need to read. You need to read, you need to read, you need to read, up the knowledge, because you're gonna meet a lot of people who actually know wines. And that was a lot of pressure for me as well, because I worked at a 5-star restaurant where people know this place. It's a big brand. So I had to always be equipped with wines by force. I had to know.
My brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, goes. Actually, as a black person, as a black man
Yeah.
to black man, I'm really proud of you.
No, thank you, my brother.
Yes, because uthatha into esingayijwayele esingayazi, a different career, and also with vineyard or vineyard, your sessions.
Yes, sir.
What sponsors do you have? Do you have sponsors or partnerships?
So the partnerships that I would have, essentially, it would be, so I wouldn't say it would be long-term partnerships. Like, for example, the first one we used the Rickety Bridge, and then the second one we would use a different wine farm. You know, we just use different wine farms
Oh,
across
okay,
Cape
okay,
Town,
okay.
so that we bring them to Johannesburg, so that people can taste different brands and see which brand they resonate with. So our partnership, I would just say Cape Town, basically.
Oh, okay,
You know,
okay.
that's
okay,
what I
okay,
would say.
Okay, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and
It's wide.
exactly. And
Okay.
then we had a partnership with a water company, a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
He owns a company named Source. It's their
Okay.
water company. So they were very kind enough to give us some water to refresh us, so that we don't get drunk, as per se.
Okay,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
we
'cause
keep
maybe
rinsing the palate, you know.
dilute kancane.
Exactly. So kuyamele ukuthi at
Yes.
least kancane nawe ukuthi ube right, yabo.
In
So,
closing,
yeah.
my brother.
Yeah.
In closing, my brother, because it's cards. It's
Of
not so
course,
sincere.
of course.
In closing, what people can expect, I know ukuthi suyimenshinile, but ngifuna ukuthi ubakhumbuze futhi abantu what people can expect when they come to your events.
Yeah.
And another thing, uyibone kuphi your company in the next 5 years, and also what is your advice to someone ozobe efikile futhi to attend the event yakho?
Okay. Essentially, what you're going to expect from the vineyard session is educational experience. You know, if you want to learn something about wine, you know, deepen your knowledge about wines. It's a very lucrative, it's a very respected, what do you call this, field. It's just that it's unfortunate that a lot of people, especially us black people, were not informed about such things.
Yeah,
We
kakhulu,
consume
kakhulu,
the
yeah,
product, but we
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
what it's all about, you know. So we keep drinking wine, and we're like, you know what, that's it.
Sithenga ingulube
Yeah,
isesakeni,
well,
kahle kahle.
exactly. Yeah, well, so I would say come with an intent to learn at Vineyard Session. Come with a lot of questions. Let's fix some of those lies that have been told in society that wine is just wine. You know, let's fix all of that. So have questions. Come with questions. Expect to learn a lot. Explain your mind to be blown away, because what you're gonna learn there is crazy. You'll be like, wow, I never knew this. I never knew that there's so much wisdom, so much knowledge in wine. Wow, that's crazy, you know. Yeah. And then probably in 5 years, how I want this to be, it has to be a thing which creates employment for people. You know, part of the thing is, so they say in your first life you must acquire, right? And then in your second life you must give. There's a very nice term that they use to give, but I'm just paraphrasing that. In your next life you give. You know, so we are acquiring so that we can give to the community. You know, because so many black people don't know what to do with their lives. This is a starting point if you want to, because a lot of people drink, especially the youth. Imagine if we teach the youth how to drink responsibly, because we can't stop them from drinking in as much as we want to. We can't stop them from drinking, but if we teach them how to drink responsibly, to appreciate not just alcohol on a general basis, just wine, it can solve a lot of problems like drinking and driving, for example. You know, you're teaching the youth how to appreciate something to the utmost degree. So that would be very nice to do, and you know, convert this into a restaurant maybe someday. I don't know how.
Kuzowenzeka, bhuti
So
wami.
that would be
Kuzowenzeka.
very nice. Yeah.
Kuzowenzeka, because into uqala ngokuyiphupha
Exactly.
usebenze kuyenzeka. My brother, sesivala nje, ngiyabonga mfethu opportunity yakho nokuthi uze kwishow yethu uzozimaketha uveze labantu. Please work hard, umake sure ukuthi amalokishini bayayazi lento, and then make sure ukuthi you teach people very well.
Yeah.
Yabona abantu bayi understand and then bayithathe le carry. So singakuthola kuphi sesivala?
So ningangithola ku Instagram.
Okay.
My personal account is Tino Nevin because I also do a little bit of music on the side as a passion.
Yeah.
But for the Vineyard Session, it has its own page, the Vineyard Session. It will show you our very beautiful events that we have done. You know, that's where you can actually get us quite nicely.
Okay,
You know,
ngiyabonga my
but
brother.
perfect. Now, thank you for the opportunity, my brother. Sweet.
Sure, okay, thanks bafethu. Bekuthini ke loyo. Siyabonga.